Thank you for joining us for Denver Westword, Denver's independent source of local news and culture since 1977. This program is brought to you by Aftersight, and it is intended to be used solely by individuals who are blind or have low vision. Your regularly scheduled program is unavailable at this time. Please enjoy this special broadcast on Aftersight.
Thank you for joining us for the Denver Post, read by Dee Haislip. This is being recorded on September 13th, 2024. Today we will be reading the following main articles. Mayor unveils tight 2025 budget as growth slows. CSU says it will join the Pac-12 in 2026. Gambling money rolls in after judge clears way. Appeal likely. Social media becomes storefront for fake pills, and following up with miscellaneous articles. Mayor unveils tight 2025 budget as growth slows. City faces declining consumer spending, won't fill job vacancies, by Joe Rubino of the Denver Post. The Denver budget will grow only slightly in 2025, Mayor Mike Johnston said Thursday as he unveiled a plan with the slowest projected growth rate in more than a decade outside the pandemic. But next year's relatively conservative spending plan, totaling $1.76 billion in the general fund, continues to prioritize Johnston's homeless strategy, affordable housing, and other signature initiatives. The belt tightening he is proposing includes limits on hiring across most departments. Highlights include $60 million aimed at creating or preserving 1,400 units of affordable housing next year, while also investing in more housing vouchers. An additional $57.5 million will be dedicated to All In Mile High, Johnston's main homelessness program. That initiative runs on a network of transitional housing and converted hotels and temporary micro-communities. The city is now over the hump of having made big, upfront investments in properties and facilities, and the initiative will transition to 2025 to a more predictable program budget, Johnston said. The mayor also proposes spending $11.9 million to grow the city's public safety departments next year. That money is expected to net 168 new police recruits via 3 academy classes, along with 24 additional firefighters and 60 more sheriff's deputies. Under Johnston's proposal, Denver's general fund budget would increase by just 0.6% over the $1.75 billion the city is now projected to spend by the end of this year. A year ago, when Johnston introduced his 2024 budget, his first since taking office, he had called for $1.74 billion in general fund spending, a 3.7% increase over 2023's level. Next year will bring the slowest budget growth rate the city has seen in any year since 2011, with the exception of pandemic spending cuts, according to the mayor. I think at the highest level, we are really excited about the opportunity to talk about this year's budget as a chance to prioritize our investments in the most important things facing our city, the ever-upbeat Johnston said during a news conference in the city and county building. And how we do that in the midst of what we know will be different economic times as we see softening of some of our sales tax revenues across the city, including all city revenue streams, including some capital funds and enterprise funds, such as the one used for Denver International Airport. The city's overall budget next year would be $4.4 billion. Johnston's proposal now goes to the City Council, which will hold budget hearings with agencies and departments in coming weeks. Council members will have a chance to request or vote on amendments before the final adoption deadline in late November. The mayor's budget may be putting him on a path for a second showdown with the council in as many years over financial assistance for renters. The city is on pace for a 20% increase in evictions over the record number seen in 2023. Last year, after Johnston budgeted $12.6 million for the city's temporary rental and utility assistance program, or TRUA, council members pressed him to increase that allocation, resulting in a compromise at $29.1 million. Johnston's 2025 budget calls for allocating $20 million to TRUA, with a large chunk coming from 2024 contingency funding. An additional $2 million would pay for legal defense help next year for people who are being evicted. More cops as some crime rates decrease. Next year's public safety increase would come after Johnston earmarked $8.2 million to grow the police department by 167 officers this year. Joining Johnston at Thursday's news conference, Police Chief Ron Thomas said the department was on track to meet that total by the end of 2024. Even with recruiting a work in progress, Johnston touted progress on safety, with crime rates falling in many categories. Already you see almost a 30% reduction so far this year in non-fatal shootings, he said. We've seen a more than 30% reduction in auto theft so far this year, and we have now seen a 95% reduction in catalytic converter thefts. But outside of uniformed public safety employees, the city is largely balancing its budget by cutting off hiring next year and not filling vacancies. For the first time since 2012, Denver is not budgeting to add any new full-time positions. With budget shuffling and attrition, that would result in a reduction of about 200 positions and leave Denver with a headcount of 9,738 non-uniformed workers next year. The decision is expected to generate $30 million in savings in a city that spends more than 65% of its general fund dollars on its workforce, according to Department of Finance officials. The strategy of not filling vacancies mirrors how Johnston was able to soften the budget impact of the $90 million the city had planned to spend this year on services for migrants, most of them from Venezuela. Next year, the city will spend just $12.5 million for what he calls newcomer support, according to Johnston. He said in his remarks Thursday that his administration's pivot in approach in the spring to providing intensive services and housing to some migrants while ending longer shelter stays would result in the returning of $20 million of this year's $90 million in planned spending to the general fund. Slowing sales tax revenue. In a city that is highly reliant on sales taxes, slowing consumer spending has an outsized impact. The city is projecting sales tax collections of about $951 million next year, according to Chief Financial Officer Nicole Doheny. That is an increase of only 1.4% over the $937 million the city is projected to bring in by the end of 2024, city officials say. Doheny noted that beyond that dynamic, city analysts are seeing relatively weak consumer sentiment on the national level. That metric seeks to track consumers' confidence in the economy and their willingness to spend. Other major cities also are feeling the pinch. Los Angeles cut its budget by 2% for the 2024-25 fiscal year, something it achieved by slashing 1,700 vacant positions, according to the Los Angeles Times. Chicago officials this week announced a hiring freeze. Denver is not immune to these factors, Doheny said. The city also is nearing the bottom of the well filled by the $308 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding it received to help it recover from the impact of the pandemic in recent years. Just $14 million of that remains to be spent, city officials say, and all of it is allocated. Although conservative spending was Thursday's central theme, Johnston took a moment to highlight what could happen if city voters this fall approve his affordable Denver dedicated housing sales tax, which would add 0.5% to the city's effective 8.81% sales tax rate. It's projected to raise about $100 million per year. If that passes, that puts us on the path to try to do about 4,000 to 5,000 households of affordable housing every year. That is the goal we would need to hit over the next 10 years to actually meet the total demand in the city, he said. So that would be a massive difference for us. CSU says it will join the Pac-12 in 2026. Rams have been in Mountain West since it was formed in 1999 by Sean Keeler of the Denver Post. College sports tectonic plates shifted again Thursday morning as another Colorado school is making a major move. Colorado State University announced that it will be joining the Pac-12, the University of Colorado's former conference, along with 3 other Mountain West Conference members on July 1st, 2026. For University President Amy Parsons, it's a move the school has had its sights on for more than a decade. In a way, we've been preparing for this for a long time, Parsons told the Denver Post by phone from Canvas Stadium a few hours after the announcement. It's one of the things we had set out to do when we built this beautiful new football stadium. Almost 10 years after Canvas Stadium was approved by CSU's Board of Governors, and about 7 years after it opened, the Rams' on-campus home soon will be a part of one of the oldest and most revered collegiate athletic conferences in the country. Although in doing so, the Rams will be part of another rebuild, in this case, helping to rebuild a Pac-12 brand that has been ravaged by poor business decisions and mass defections, the combination of which whittled the conference down to just 2 members as of last month, Oregon State and Washington State. That rebuild will include an expansion that features 4 of the top athletic brands from the Mountain West: CSU, Boise State, San Diego State, and Fresno State. Those programs have combined to win 15 Mountain West football titles since that league began operations in 1999. The Rams have won or shared 3 of those, although none since 2002. The Pac-12, which was founded in 1915, is the former home of USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Cal, Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and CU. All 10 left the conference this summer, citing concerns over league stability as well as the opportunity for greater financial opportunities with other conferences. Obviously, the Pac-12 has incredible brand recognition and history in this country for more than 100 years, Parsons said, so it's a storied brand in athletics, and I think anybody would be proud to be a part of the Pac-12. The Rams, whose football program hosts rival CU in the Rocky Mountain Showdown for the first time at Canvas Stadium on Saturday, are a founding member of the Mountain West. Parsons said CSU received a formal invitation from the Pac-12 this week and signed a contract with the league on Wednesday. By accepting that invitation, the Rams will gain association with what the athletic department has long sought, membership within a power conference. But such a move is not without costs, both in terms of finances and tradition. CSU reportedly must pay the Mountain West an exit fee of $17 million for departing the league, as well as other financial penalties that reportedly could add up to as much as $29 million per departing school. Parsons told the Post she believes the Pac-12 will assist in defraying those costs and that specific terms of departure will be negotiated in the coming months. Oklahoma and Texas were estimated to incur $160 million in penalties for departing the Pac-12 for the SEC, according to USA Today, but reportedly agreed to pay out $100 million instead. The CSU president added that the Rams are an equal financial partner with the other 5 schools that currently make up the Pac-12. With Wyoming and Air Force not included in the first wave of expansion, CSU appears to be leaving behind 2 of its long-standing rivals as part of this move. John Weber, CSU's athletic director, told the Post that CSU will look to maintain those rivalries through non-conference scheduling. The Pac-12 historically has been the most prestigious collegiate league west of the Central Time Zone. However, that prestige, and indeed its membership, were crippled by the defections of CU, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State to the Big 12, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington to the Big 10, and Stanford and Cal to the ACC. Washington State and Oregon State were left with the conference's holdings, trademarks, and media rights. They believe they can rebuild the brand with the likes of the Rams, Aztecs, Broncos, and Bulldogs as peers. The NCAA requires a minimum of 8 schools to qualify as an FBS conference, so it's clear the conference is not done looking for new members. Parsons told the Post she wasn't aware of a specific Pac-12 timetable for further expansion, but that we know there are other schools that are interested in the league, and we expect others beyond them will be interested as well. The CSU football team plays at Oregon State on October 5th as part of a scheduling alliance between the Mountain West and the remains of the Pac-12, a partnership that Yahoo Sports reports will not continue for a second fall. The primary motivations for CSU are the same reasons CU left the Pac-12 this summer: access to the college football playoff, money, and stability. Although the mass departures from the Pac-12 would denounce the latter, Yahoo Sports reports that the remaining Pac-12 members feel a new-look league would reach a media rights agreement worth more than the current or expected payouts presented to Mountain West members. The Mountain West has a $270 million television contract with CBS and Fox that runs through 2026. Published reports have estimated that non-Boise members of the Mountain West, including CSU, received about $3.5 million annually for that deal, with the Broncos receiving an additional $1.8 million per year. CSU noted in its financial report to the NCAA for the 2022-23 fiscal year, the most recent public report available, that its media rights revenues from all sources, including conference distributions, was $3.3 million. The Yahoo Sports report infers that the Rams could also have access to Pac-12 assets, such as monies from the Rose Bowl contract, college football playoff, NCAA basketball tournament units, and Pac-12 enterprises, previously the Pac-12 network. CSU indicated in its announcement Thursday morning that the 4 new schools will have immediate voting privileges within the conference. The 2-team Pac-12 recently lost its status as a Power 5 autonomous conference within the CFP, and it's not clear whether supplementing the expanded league with Group of 5 programs would restore those privileges. CSU Athletics reported revenues of $64.3 million to the NCAA for the 2022-23 fiscal year in January. The Rams' revenues of $61.2 million per a USA Today database ranked 4th among known Mountain West athletics budgets in 21-22, behind Air Force, San Diego State, and UNLV. Wazoo and Oregon State had revenues of $85 million and $83.5 million in 21-22, respectively. Gambling money rolls in after judge clears way. Appeal likely by Wayne Perry of the Associated Press. People began betting Thursday on which political party would win control of Congress in the November elections after a judge's ruling allowing the wagers, the only ones to be approved legally by a U.S. jurisdiction. New York startup company Kalshi began taking what amounts to bets on the outcome of the November congressional elections after a judge refused to block it from doing so. The ruling by U.S. District Judge Gia Cobb in Washington enabled the company, at least temporarily, to offer prediction contracts across the country, essentially yes bets or no bets, on which party will win control of the Senate and the House in November. The Kalshi community just made history, and I know we are only getting started, said Tarek Mansour, a founder of the company. Now is finally the time to allow these markets to show the world just how powerful they are at providing signal amidst the noise and giving us more truth about what the future holds. But the activity could prove short-lived. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission, an independent federal body that last year prohibited the company from offering such bets, said it would appeal the ruling as quickly as possible, citing the possibility of people trying to manipulate the election for financial purposes. Kalshi did not say whether it intends to offer bets beyond the ones posted Thursday for congressional races, including potentially taking bets on the presidential race. It also was not immediately clear whether sports books or online casinos would seek to offer similar political bets in light of the ruling. Prices on Kalshi's so-called predictive contracts varied throughout the early afternoon. As of mid-afternoon, a bet on the Republicans to win control of the Senate was priced at 76 cents. A $100 bet would pay $129. A bet on the Democrats to win control of the House was priced at 63 cents, with a $100 bet paying out at $154. Better Markets, a nonprofit organization that says it advocates for the public interest in financial markets, called the development a dangerous move that opens the floodgates to unprecedented gambling on U.S. elections, eroding public trust in both markets and democracy. Contrasting his client with foreign companies who take bets from American customers on U.S. elections without U.S. government approval, Yaakov Roth said Kalshi is trying to do things the right way under government regulation. It invested significantly in these markets, he said during Thursday's hearing. They spent millions of dollars. It would be perverse if all that investment went up in smoke. But Ragni Berry, an attorney for the commission, said allowing such bets could invite malicious activities designed to influence the outcome of elections and undermine fragile public confidence in the voting process. These contracts would give market participants a $100 million incentive to influence the market on the election, she said. There is a very severe public interest threat. She used the analogy of someone who has taken an investment position in corn commodities. Somebody puts out misinformation about that a drought is coming, she said. That could move the market on the price of corn. The same thing could happen here. The Commission is not required to suffer the flood before building a dam. Thursday's ruling will not be the last word on the case. The Commission said it will appeal on an emergency basis to a Washington, D.C. Circuit Court and ask the judge to stay her ruling for 24 hours. But the judge declined, leaving no prohibition in place on the company offering election bets, at least in the very near term. The company already offers yes-no positions on political topics, including whether a government shutdown will happen this year, whether a new Supreme Court justice will be confirmed this year, and whether President Joe Biden's approval rating will be above or below a certain level by the end of the year. The Kalshi bets are technically not the first to be offered legally on U.S. elections. West Virginia permitted such bets for 1 hour in April 2020 before reversing itself and canceling those betting markets, deciding it had not done the proper research beforehand. Social media becomes storefront for fake pills by Barbara Ordete of the Associated Press. Fentanyl overdoses have become a leading cause of death for minors in the last 5 years or so, even as overall drug use has dropped slightly. In a 2022 analysis of fentanyl-laced prescription pills, the DEA found that 6 out of 10 contained a potentially lethal dose of the drug. And social media, where tainted, fake prescription drugs can be obtained with just a few clicks, is a big part of the problem. Experts, law enforcement, and children's advocates say companies such as Snap, TikTok, Telegram, and Meta, which owns Instagram, are not doing enough to keep children safe. In 2022, 2 weeks after she turned 17, Coco left home just outside New York City to meet with a dealer she messaged through Instagram who promised to sell her Percocet. Her mom, Juliana Arnold, recalled recently. She never made it home. She was found dead the next day, 2 blocks from the address that the guy had provided her. Whatever the dealer gave Coco, her mother said, was not Percocet. It was a fake pill laced with fentanyl, which can be lethal in a dose as small as the tip of a pencil. Michaela Brown lost her son Elijah, who went by Eli, to a suspected fentanyl overdose in 2023, 2 weeks after his 15th birthday. His father found him unresponsive on a September morning last year. His cause of death was accidental fentanyl overdose, and he wasn't trying to buy fentanyl. He was looking for Xanax and, like Coco, ended up with tainted pills that killed him. Although data on the prevalence of drug sales on social platforms is hard to come by, the National Crime Prevention Council estimates that 80% of teen and young adult fentanyl poisoning deaths can be traced to some social media contact. In a sweeping 2023 report on the problem, Colorado's Attorney General called the availability of fentanyl and other illicit substances online staggering. Due to their ubiquity, convenience, and lack of regulation, social media platforms have become a major venue for drug distribution, the report said. Where once a teen might have had to seek out a street dealer, hassle friends, or learn to navigate the dark web to access illicit drugs, Young people can now locate drug dealers using their smartphones with the relative ease of ordering food delivery or calling a ride-share service. Accidental overdoses in the U.S. have decreased slightly each year since 2021, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Paul Del Pont, Executive Director and CEO of the National Crime Prevention Council, attributes this partly to more education and awareness about the issue. Among young people ages 0 to 19, there were 1,622 overdose deaths in 2021. Then 1,590 in 2022, and 1,511 last year. The decline, Del Pont said, is very small. In a statement, Meta said drug dealers are criminals who stop at nothing to sell their dangerous products. This is a challenge that spans across platforms, industries, and communities, and requires all of us working together to address it. The company added that it works with law enforcement and proactively took down 2 million pieces of content, 99.7%, before they were reported in the first 3 months of 2024. Meta says it blocks and filters hundreds of terms associated with illicit drug sales and links to recovery and substance abuse resources when possible. But drug dealers and other bad actors constantly shift their strategies, coming up with fresh ways to avoid detection. SNAP, in a statement, said it is heartbroken by the fentanyl epidemic and are deeply committed to the fight against it. We're invested in advanced technology to detect and remove illicit drug-related content, work extensively with law enforcement helping to bring dealers to justice, and continue to raise awareness and evolve our service to help keep our communities safe. Criminals have no place on Snapchat, said Jacqueline Bashir, Global Head of Platform Safety at the company. While it can happen on any social media site, experts often single out Snapchat as a particularly dangerous platform, something the company vehemently disagrees with. In October 2022, a group of parents who say their children bought fentanyl from drug dealers they met through Snapchat sued the company for wrongful death and negligence, calling it a haven for drug trafficking. Advocates are hoping that regulation of tech companies could help address the problem, as it might help with other dangers kids face on social media. In July, the Senate passed the Kids Online Safety Act, legislation designed to protect children from dangerous online content. It still awaits a vote in the House. Senator Jeanne Shaheen, Democrat, New Hampshire, and Senator Roger Marshall, Republican, Kansas, meanwhile introduced a bill that would require social media companies to report illicit fentanyl, methamphetamine, and fake pill activity occurring on their platforms to law enforcement. We must do more at the federal level to combat the flow of fentanyl into our communities, and it starts by holding social media companies accountable for their part in facilitating illicit drug sales, Shaheen said. Boulder is one of 3 finalists to host Sundance Film Festival by John Wenzel of the Denver Post. Boulder has moved into the final round of cities being considered to host the Sundance Film Festival starting in 2027, along with Cincinnati and Salt Lake City. Boulder is the next natural home to the Sundance Film Festival, said Governor Jared Polis in a statement. Here in Colorado, we cherish our creative communities, the jobs they create, and the economic contributions they make to our entire state, and the Sundance Film Festival would perfectly complement the work and creative activity already happening here in Colorado. Park City, Utah has hosted the event, which was founded by actor Robert Redford for the past 4 decades. In 2023, Sundance drew more than 130,000 attendees who watched 90 films and 60 shorts, contributing about $118 million to Utah's economy, according to the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade, which oversees film-related incentives and includes the Colorado Office of Film, Television, and Media. Each city shows promise and potential with its blend of logistics, character, and programming possibilities, said Eugene Hernandez, festival director, in the Thursday morning statement. Staying in Park City is an option, too. We're excited for a future Sundance that can discover, support, and inspire artists and audiences for the next 40 years, Hernandez said. Boulder and state officials in July announced that the city had been named among the top spots for a relocated Sundance. The festival has been considering a new location because its contract with the state of Utah is expiring. The cities that were cut from this latest round are Atlanta, Santa Fe, and Louisville, Kentucky. Sundance Institute officials are declining to comment further until the cities can get a fair and comprehensive review during the process, they said in the statement. They do not expect to announce a decision until after the next iteration of the festival, scheduled for January 23 through February 2nd, has wrapped up. Plans for controversial fuel storage expansion near school are dropped. Pipeline company says it lost its customer. Community opposition not a factor, by Noel Phillips of the Denver Post. The Magellan Pipeline Company announced Thursday that it is withdrawing plans for a controversial expansion of its gasoline storage facility across the street from a Commerce City elementary school. Environmentalists and elected officials who had opposed the project vocally said they considered the move a victory for the surrounding community. The 5 additional fuel storage tanks are no longer needed because a customer backed out of a commercial contract, and Morrow, a spokeswoman for One OK, Magellan's parent company, wrote in a statement sent to the Denver Post. One OK will continue to meet customer needs through Magellan's existing valuable infrastructure in the area and looks forward to working with stakeholders, the statement said. When asked if public pressure also influenced the decision, Morrow reiterated that it was a business decision. However, community opposition was boiling over just as a public comment period on the application was ending Monday. They can say whatever they want, but the fact they pulled it right when all of this is happening speaks volumes. We know that power is within the people, and that has an effect, said Laura Martinez, manager of environmental justice programs at Cultivando, a nonprofit that advocates for the environment and improved public health in Commerce City and North Denver. Magellan previously said it needed to expand to store reformulated gasoline, which is required for front-range motorists during the summer ozone season in June, July, and August. The company's permit application had received preliminary approval from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment's Air Pollution Control Division. However, the company and the state health department were under fire from Adams County School District 14, neighborhood residents, Adams County and Commerce City elected officials, and environmentalists who said the new storage tanks would bring more unwanted pollution to a community overburdened by bad air. The storage tanks were to be built across the street from DuPont Elementary School, 7970 Kimberly Street, and people also complained the new tanks would increase truck traffic in the neighborhood and would harm students' health. The various groups also criticized the company and the health department for failing to communicate plans to them, saying the permit was given preliminary approval in secret. The school district and people who live near the storage site were not aware of the expansion plans until they were first reported by the Denver Post in July. The company's only public notification was a sign recently posted on a fence outside the company's property on East 80th Avenue. The Adams 14 Board of Education in August gave approval to its attorney to mount a legal challenge if necessary, and Cultivando recently held 2 community meetings at which more than 100 neighborhood residents and parents of DuPont Elementary students discussed their strategy for fighting the expansion. The state's Air Pollution Control Division had extended the public comment period on the project until Monday after the complaints, and opposition was being filed by the Adams 14 District, the Adams County Commission, and the Center for Biological Diversity and Environmental Nonprofit. I appreciate the decision by One OK to withdraw these plans that would have only increased emissions, truck traffic, and other burdens on our already disproportionately impacted DuPont community, Adams County Commissioner Steve O'Dorisio said. We will have a long way to go in these neighborhoods, but we will take any positive outcome we can get whenever we can get it. The Air Pollution Control Division is holding a public listening session from 6 to 8 p.m. Tuesday at Eagle Point Recreation Center in Commerce City to talk about air quality in the area, and community members said they still plan to attend in hopes of pushing the division to have better communication with the public. This is a straight reaction to all the organizing, said Guadalupe Solis, Cultivando's Director of Environmental Justice Programs. They know they were in the wrong, both the Air Pollution Division and Magellan/1OK. Magellan had written in its permit application for the expansion that the additional storage tanks could release 16.5 tons per year of volatile organic compounds, which combine with nitrogen oxides on hot summer days to form a smog that blankets the region. The tanks also would release benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylene, all chemicals that cause various human health problems such as breathing difficulty, eye and nose irritation, and inflammation. Adams 14 school officials worried that more air pollution would further harm the health of the district students, especially the DuPont students who live in one of the most polluted communities in Colorado, and they feared the increased pollution could impact their academic performance. Last school year, 314 of the district's 5,219 students suffered from asthma, according to data from Kids First Health Care, a nonprofit that provides services to students. Children living in Commerce City have a 22% higher rate of emergency department admissions for asthma compared with the county overall, and Adams County has higher youth emergency room admissions for asthma than the state average, according to data from the county health department. Adams 14 Superintendent Carla Loria said the permits withdrawal was good news, but that the fight for environmental justice is not over. The students' health is too important. We still have an issue that we cannot forget, Loria said. We stopped it from becoming even worse, but it's still bad for our community. In brief, maintenance work in central Denver at a regional transportation district light rail crossing along Kalama Street will force a 6-day street closure and traffic detour starting Monday. This disruption, announced in a Thursday release, follows a summer of detours and closures downtown as RTD contractors reconstructed rails, a deferred maintenance project that encompassed 4 major intersections. During the Kalama Street closure between North Spear Boulevard and West Colfax Avenue, construction contractors will stabilize the rail base and make repairs to asphalt, RTD officials said. By September 29th, officials said light rail service will resume in the downtown loop, and D and H line trains no longer will detour to Denver Union Station. From September 16th through September 21st, drivers traveling south along Champa Street toward West Colfax Avenue will be diverted to Spear Boulevard, officials said, adding that they have coordinated with city transportation officials about this plan. Submitted by Bruce Finley of the Denver Post. Grand County search crews are suspending recovery efforts for the body of a hiker who died after falling 300 to 400 feet off of Arikari Peak in late August. Crews responded to reports of a hiker who had fallen off the Front Range 13er west of Ward on August 28th. 8 emergency response agencies coordinated to try to recover the hiker, but were stopped by adverse weather and dangerous terrain. A doctor on board the helicopter during the first recovery attempt determined the hiker did not survive, the sheriff's office said. The hiker's name has not been released. Crews again tried to recover the hiker's body last Friday, but could not safely access the area. Multiple agencies later decided to halt recovery efforts because of the extreme risks involved, sheriff's officials said Thursday. A residential fire burned 2 single-family homes in Highlands Ranch neighborhood and was threatening a third before firefighters contained the blaze, according to South Metro Fire Rescue officials. The 2-alarm house fire in the 10,200 block of Wood Rose Lane in Douglas County started burning Thursday afternoon, South Metro officials said in a post on X. It was under control as of 3:15 p.m. All residents evacuated safely. Submitted by Katie Langford of the Denver Post. Survivor, shooter repeated, quote, "This is fun," during attack, by Colleen Slevin of the Associated Press. A pharmacist who survived a 2021 mass shooting at a Boulder supermarket said Thursday during the gunman's trial that she heard him say, quote, "This is fun," at least 3 times during the shooting. The chilling detail had not been revealed before. Sarah Chen said she heard the comments while hiding with her co-workers and carefully listening for any sounds from the plexiglass barrier at the pharmacy counter that might alert them to the shooter's presence after Ahmad al-Aliwi Alisa had opened fire. "I heard him screaming, 'This is fun, this is fun,'" Chen said. No one, including Alisa's lawyers, disputes he was the shooter. Alisa has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity in the shooting. Alisa was diagnosed after the shooting with treatment-resistant schizophrenia. His attorneys say he had hallucinations that included hearing screaming voices, seeing people who weren't there, and believing he was being followed in the run-up to the shooting. They argue he should be found not guilty because he was not able to tell the difference between right and wrong at the time of the shooting. He is charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder, multiple counts of attempted murder, and other offenses, including having 6 high-capacity ammunition magazine devices banned in Colorado after previous mass shootings. Testimony began September 5th, and the trial is scheduled to finish by the end of the month. Another pharmacy worker, Maggie Montoya, a professional runner, testified about what she saw and heard while hiding in a room next to the pharmacy. That included hearing Alisa say he was naked while he surrendered. She didn't mention hearing Alisa say, "This is fun." Standoff ends with hostage killed and gunman seriously wounded. Residents ordered to shelter in place near First Bank Center, by Lauren Pennington and Elizabeth Hernandez of the Denver Post. A gunman took a woman hostage in a Broomfield apartment complex early Thursday morning, firing shots from the unit at responding officers and into other buildings during an hours-long standoff with police. Law enforcement officers ultimately breached the unit in the Arista Flats apartments, shooting the 34-year-old suspect, Broomfield police said. The seriously wounded gunman and the woman he had taken hostage were taken to a hospital where she was pronounced dead of a gunshot wound, police said late Thursday afternoon. Police did not specify who shot the woman. That remains under investigation, Broomfield police spokeswoman Rachel Haslett said. The identities of the gunman and the victim have not been released publicly. Criminal charges against the suspect are forthcoming, police said. Law enforcement officers also received minor injuries during the incident, during which nearby residents were evacuated or ordered to shelter in place. Anthony Rurup and Jennifer Comperda, who live at Arista Flats, were out walking their dogs just after 7 a.m. Thursday when they heard gunshots. Although the two didn't know it, a man had taken a woman hostage in the building just across from Rurup's apartment and was threatening to hurt her and others. The two were evacuated from their apartment when they returned to their building as SWAT officers used the unit to set up a crisis headquarters. Sitting outside on the sidewalk with Comperta and their 2 dogs, Bodie and Ebony, Rurup recounted seeing the shooter lean out of a window and fire at least a full clip. It was wild shooting, Rurup said. He was firing indiscriminately. It's surreal. It doesn't even feel like this is real right now. Haslett said officers first responded to reports of a disturbance about 6:30 a.m. after neighbors heard yelling from inside an Arista Flats apartment unit. The apartment complex is northwest of the First Bank Center and south of the UC Health Broomfield Hospital. When officers arrived, they heard gunshots and the suspect making threats, Haslett said. He was shooting sporadically into surrounding units, other apartment buildings, and the parking lot. No one else in the apartment complex was injured, police said. The hostage standoff went on for nearly 4 hours, with gunshots fired intermittently and loud explosions from police flashbang grenades echoing through the neighborhood. We wouldn't hear them for a while, and then another shot would be fired, Haslett said. Suddenly, after one final volley of gunshots between officers and the suspect about 10 a.m., the neighborhood full of apartment buildings fell silent, and residents sheltering inside began to peek outside of their balcony doors. During that 10 a.m. push, officers were able to breach the door and enter the apartment where the suspect had barricaded himself and take the man into custody, Haslett said. Multiple law enforcement officers fired their weapons, police said. CU weighs costs of meeting off campus by Olivia Doak of the Daily Camera. The University of Colorado Board of Regents expressed interest last month in continuing to meet off campus once a year, a desire that would cost the university thousands of dollars more. Records acquired in a public records request show CU paid $47,106 for the Regents' June meeting in Pueblo, compared with $32,931 for its meeting at CU Denver in April. The board typically holds its regular meetings bi-monthly and over 2 days in person at a CU campus and streamed online. At the August meeting, the board discussed the added costs of holding a meeting off campus and whether the Regents want to continue doing so once a year. I appreciate the financial analysis we did. It does appear that it's more expensive for us to do something off-site, Regent Ken Montero said. The Board of Regents is a 9-person elected board that oversees CU and all its campuses, that approves CU's budget, new degree programs, new construction, tenure appointments, and property acquisitions. The cost breakdown of the meetings at Pueblo and CU Denver does not include all mileage and other travel expenses. CU said that information is not tracked and it does not have that information available. Those costs could include mileage reimbursements, a rental car, ride-share services, tolls, or parking fees. It also doesn't include hotel costs, parking costs, and mileage reimbursement for CU employees outside the board office that may be covered by a staff member's department. For instance, costs incurred by CU employees who work at a CU campus and travel for the meetings. It's a bit more expensive, definitely, to do it off-site, but I think there are other things. It's not just about money, Regent Callie Renison said. Regent Frank McNulty said it's important that the board continues holding one meeting off-campus every year. If we think the cost is the most important driver, then we have them at the system office downtown Denver. All of them, McNulty said. If we think that ease on staff is the driving factor, then we have them at the system office. All of them downtown. If we think that recognizing the value of having these meetings throughout the state of Colorado is important, then we continue to do what we did in Pueblo. During the meeting in Pueblo, Montero said residents told him they felt CU cared when the regents held the meeting there. There was some really positive feedback from some of the people I had spoken to, Montero said. Regent Glenn Gallegos also said it's important that the regents hold statewide meetings. I want to point out that we're doing a lot of things statewide, he said. Not only our outreach trips that we're doing, and we're getting to Pueblo a lot, we're getting to Grand Junction, we're getting to southern Colorado. Added Regent Mark Van Driel, my strong desire to continue this type of meeting because I think that it helps us be present to the state. Another wolf dies, third death among 10 animals released, by Elise Schmelzer of the Denver Post. Another of the wolves released into Colorado last year has died, the third death among the 10 wolves released as part of the state's historic and controversial reintroduction program. Colorado Parks and Wildlife received a mortality signal from the male wolf's collar on Monday, and on Tuesday, wildlife officials confirmed that the wolf had died, the agency announced Thursday. The wolf was identified as 2307-OR and was found dead in Grand County. While this is sad news, these types of restoration efforts consider anticipated mortalities in our planning, and a degree of wolf mortality, just like for any wildlife, is expected both during restoration efforts and on an ongoing basis, Parks and Wildlife Director Jeff Davis said. The agency declined to share more information about what may have caused the wolf's death. As stated in our announcement, this is an active investigation and no additional information will be shared at this time, spokesman Travis Duncan said in an email. The death is the third among the 10 wolves reintroduced into the state in December. One wolf was found dead this spring, presumably killed after a fight with a mountain lion. Another, the patriarch of the first pack established by reintroduced wolves, died September 3rd after being captured by Parks and Wildlife following livestock killings. Parks and Wildlife said the wolf died of injuries it sustained prior to capture and that a third party will conduct a necropsy. The state's known wolf population now stands at 13. 7 survivors among the reintroduced adults plus the 4 pups from the Copper Creek pack, and 2 adult wolves remaining from a pack established earlier by wolves that migrated from Wyoming. One of the reintroduced wolves and her 4 pups remain in captivity following their capture, although Parks and Wildlife plans to release them this year. Ruling blocks big changes to Utah's citizen initiatives by Meade Groover of the Associated Press. Utah voters won't decide this November on a proposal to amend the state constitution that would let state lawmakers rewrite voter-approved ballot measures, but the question will remain on ballots with just weeks to go until the election, a judge ruled Thursday. Legislative leaders vowed to appeal to the Utah Supreme Court. Salt Lake County District Judge Deanna Gibson sided with the League of Women Voters and others who challenged the measure, agreeing that it carries misleading ballot language and has not been advertised in newspapers statewide as required. To keep ballot printing and other election deadlines on track, the amendment will still be on Utah ballots in November but won't be counted. The ballot language, which says the change would strengthen the initiative process, is not only misleading, but says the opposite of what the amendment would actually do, a League of Women Voters attorney argued in a hearing Wednesday. Gibson agreed in her ruling. The short summary the legislature chose does not disclose the chief feature, which is also the most critical constitutional change, that the legislature will have unlimited right to change laws passed by citizen initiative, Gibson wrote. An attorney for Utah lawmakers stood by the ballot language in the hearing, but lawmakers' argument that extensive media coverage of the proposed amendment suffices for statewide publication also didn't sway the judge. No evidence has been presented that either the legislature or the lieutenant governor has caused the proposed constitutional amendment to appear in any newspaper in Utah, Gibson wrote, referring to the publication requirement in Utah law. The amendment stems from a Utah Supreme Court ruling in July which upheld a ban on drawing district lines to protect incumbents or favor a political party. Lawmakers responded by seeking the ability to limit such voter-approved measures. Meeting in a special session in late August, they approved the state constitutional amendment for voters to decide in November. Opponents who sued September 5th to block the proposed amendment have been up against tight deadlines with less than 2 months to go until the election. In Wednesday's hearing, Gibson asked Tyler Green, an attorney for the lawmakers being sued, whether some responsibility for the tight deadline fell to the legislature. The legislature can't move on a dime, Green responded. Legislative leaders in a statement criticized Gibson's ruling as a policy-making action from the bench. It's disheartening that the courts, not the 1.9 million Utah voters, will determine the future policies of our state. This underscores our concerns about governance by initiative, said the statement by Senate President J. Stewart Adams and House Speaker Mike Schultz. The statement blamed organizers in Washington, D.C., with seemingly unlimited funds for the ruling and vowed to exhaust all options, including a state Supreme Court appeal. The amendment has been a power-hungry attempt to silence voter voices, Salt Lake County Democratic Party Chairman Jade Velasquez said in a statement. Police: man dies after fatal hit-and-run at car wash by Lauren Pennington of the Denver Post. A man is dead after a fatal hit-and-run crash at an Arvada car wash last week, police said Thursday. The suspect driver, who has been identified by police, allegedly waited for the hit-and-run victim to get out of his car before running him over, police said. Police have not released the driver's name or said if an arrest has been made. Arvada officers responded to reports of a hit-and-run crash about 6 a.m. September 6th, according to a news release from the Arvada Police Department. When officers arrived, they found an unidentified man in his 60s lying on the ground, the news release said. Paramedics with the Arvada Fire Department took the victim to a hospital where he died from his injuries, police said. Both drivers involved in the crash were on their way to work when they got into an altercation at the intersection of West 72nd Avenue and Indiana Street. The hit-and-run victim was driving a gray Lexus SUV, and the suspect was driving a brown Ford Focus, police said. Each driver was the only person in their vehicles. After the fight, both continued to the auto wash parking lot at 14835 West 64th Avenue in Arvada, the news release stated. The hit-and-run victim got out of his car in the parking lot, and the suspect driver left the parking lot, police said. That's when the suspect hit the victim. Ajax, Buttermilk, and Highlands are getting new cell towers. Pitkin County Commissioners on Wednesday voted 4-1 for 10 cell towers to be installed at 9 locations among these 3 ski resorts. The decision comes after Pitkin County Planning and Zoning approved the project on September 3rd. But the plan, the third major effort to improve cell service in Pitkin County over the past 15 years, has a few slight amendments. Chiefly among them includes an extension of vested rights to 6 years, which will require a development agreement as well as an addition. If these towers are not used for 2 years, they will be removed. Thank you for joining us for the Denver Post, read by Dee Heislop.
Thank you for listening to Denver Westword, Denver's independent source of local news and culture since 1977. If you enjoyed this program, please register for our free services at www.aftersight.org or by calling 303-786-7777.